one dude left.
Caught between the iron wall, the light shines through the door. The missing sound, the heat will rise, dead to the core. The chicken chains will tear through you, your dark fate soon awaits.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 21 of the Game Nights audio podcast. I am one of your hosts, Swag, and I am joined as I am every single week by KWING.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm laughing so hard, my eyes are crying.
Actually, I don't know if you realize, but we started off the podcast here with K-Wife saying, "Oh, I only have one more guy."
Yeah. She's playing Little King story right now, and she had like all her troops, and they got eaten by this giant frog. So now she's running around as Little King, trying to smack him with like this star fairy rod.
I just think it's hilarious because that's literally the first thing that is said before the music starts. That is really hilarious to me.
Oh.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Game Nights, your weekly video game podcast. As always, we are talking video games. I have your video game news. We're going to throw it over to K-Wing afterwards, who has your new releases for the week. We're going to talk about the games that we're playing. We're going to answer your questions. It's going to be another awesome episode today. And I am fresh back from Comic-Con, and holy crud, is it insane.
Cool.
Now, this was my first Comic-Con, and I knew going into it that it was going to be busy. I knew it was going to be packed. I knew, even going into it knowing all this stuff, I was still blown away at how busy it was. The place is like literally a human river. Like, you can barely even walk.
Worse than E3?
Oh, absolutely worse than E3.
Wow.
Absolutely, because anybody can get tickets to Comic-Con. I mean, as long as you get them early enough. You have to buy tickets for Comic-Con, 6 months in advance. But it's just crazy busy, and now it's like it's barely even like about comics anymore. There's so many other things that are going on there. There's so many TV and movie studios that have their booth set up. There's, the video game companies like EA and Sony and Activision, stuff like that. They have their booth set up. It's like most of their stuff, all the TV, movie, and video game stuff, all those booths are larger, more extravagant than most of the comic stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Well, it's just, it's like it's barely Comic-Con anymore. It's and you look at most of the panels. Now, this is the reason why people go to Comic-Con. It's for the panels where they get to see like famous people, up close and personal, and hopefully they get a chance to ask them a question and all that kind of stuff. If you actually want to go to these panels, and I'll give you an example of one of the panels that I went to.
Okay.
It was for Rift Tracks. Now, are you familiar with Rift Tracks?
Yes.
Okay. For those of you out there that are not familiar with Rift Tracks, I'm sure you are familiar with Mystery Science Theater 3000. Now, Rift Tracks is essentially the three main guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000, circa the 10th season. So there's Michael J. Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy. And they riff on movies, except it's more recent movies, and it's just the audio. It's not, the actual episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. So we got in line about an hour and a half early, and we just barely made it inside for the panel. You have to show up to these things, mostly 2 hours early in order to get to these panels. It's ridiculous. And for some of the larger panels, where like the more famous shows like Family Guy and stuff,
right?
They actually have this thing where you have to like wait pretty much outside. So like if you look outside, there's these big long lines of people, and a lot of people actually brought like umbrellas because like they knew it was going to be really hot. So there are people like standing outside in the scorching heat for 2 hours wielding umbrellas to try and keep the sun off of them. But again, they get, there's such a presence now of movies, television, video games, everything, not just comics. I mean, like the whole con is probably only 25 to maybe 35% comic book related still.
Wow. That's
I mean, for anybody else, like living, for somebody like living out in Missouri, for them to get this opportunity to get up close and personal with so many shows and movie actors and guys like Stan Lee or whatever. I mean, yeah, I can just see how people go ape nuts over it. I have to admit, for someone like me that gets to go to E3 and I get to go to these really cool parties that you guys have seen, and I get the free swag and everything. And it's not quite as impressive because I kind of already get to do that kind of stuff. But for just any Tom, Dick, and Harry. I can see why, but the thing is like I could totally see how this con is 4 days long, because and this is the other thing too. When you're in these rooms and you're in these panels, and some people don't even want to be in the panels that they're in. They simply get into these panels because they want to see the next panel, and they don't clear the rooms between panels. So here's an example. Okay, let me give you an example right here.
Yep.
So on Saturday, they had a panel in like the biggest panel room that they had. They had the panel for Family Guy. Right afterwards, then they had one for the Cleveland Show, which is the spin-off of Family Guy. And then a few hours later, probably think about 2 hours later, they had a Futurama panel, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But so some people will go and try and get into the Family Guy panel just to make sure that they're in for the Futurama panel. So it's really kind of, I mean, I don't know how else you would do it, but it's just kind of messed up that you get people in some panels that aren't interested in being there, just so they can make sure that they can have a spot for the next one.
Yeah, I'd say so. That's pretty messed up.
So there's lots of things there that I saw that were not executed well. Here's another thing. Oh my gosh, this is just blew me away right here. Okay, so there's like, you're on your feet all day. You get tired. There's like very, choice places to sit there. You've got, thousands and thousands of people in this con. There's very few chairs. So, most people opt to sit, outside in like the concourse, in like the large hallways. Well, every once in a while, they'll have people come by that say, all you people need to get up and move because you're a fire hazard. I'm like, fire hazard, my Aunt Fanny. You look inside the Comic-Con, there are people that can't even move. Like, you're trying to get by, all these people to try and get where you want to go. It takes you like an hour to get there because nobody's moving. That's a fire hazard. If there was a fire in the middle of Comic-Con, everyone would die because it would be a human river of everyone running to the exits and people would get trampled to death. I'm not even exaggerating about that. I'm
That's
not.
pretty funny though.
I honestly don't see how that is legal, that they're allowed to have that many people in one spot. I don't see how it's legal.
Well, I don't even think Comic-Cons used to be this big, though.
Well, it did. Well, when Comic-Con first started, it was tiny. Yeah, granted. But pretty much in like the past 3 to 4 years is when it's really just blown up. Because basically what happened is that also, with the coming of bloggers and people who are blogging now who actually have huge audiences and stuff like that, how people hype up a lot of movies and television shows these days is they try to reach out to these bloggers to get some buzz going about their show. So, they started showing up at Comic-Con to, because these is where a lot of these bloggers tend to flock to. To try and get them a sneak preview of their show or a pilot or some like 10 minutes of a movie or whatever, so that way they could get some word out about it. And it's just like it's a domino effect. Now it's not it's not Comic-Con anymore. They just need to change the name to Entertainment Con, because that's really what it is.
Yeah, I remember we almost got to go to a Comic-Con years ago, and I know we're going to try to go to the New York Comic-Con this January, but I have a problem with big crowds and stuff, so
Oh
I mean,
God, KWING. I mean, if you've got a problem with crowds, I mean.